All right, guys, today we're going to make some white sandwich bread. This is my favorite recipe. I'll put the link in the description. It's from Noreen's Kitchen. It's called the Perfect Sandwich Loaf. And I've made this maybe 5 or 6 times and it's turned out so well. And you can also make it into cinnamon raisin bread if you add in those, which I'll do in a different video. But today we're just going to make the basic white bread. So my neighbor gave me some of this bread flour I'm going to try out. I normally just use regular white flour. I don't care for the taste of the whole wheat. And then it needs 2 tablespoons of sugar, yeast, dry milk, salt, and some water. So I'll go ahead and I have the 2 teaspoons of instant yeast and the sugar combined here. And then I'll go ahead and mix it with 1.5 cups of warm water and let that proof. Okay, my yeast has proofed. I can see that it's bubbling up and it's active. I use this every week, so I know it's pretty good, but I like to give it a little bit of time to get going. One thing I forgot to tell you is you need 2 tablespoons of butter. Okay, so now I'm going to start putting all of this stuff into my KitchenAid with the dough hook attachment. So next I will add in, so we already have the water and yeast and sugar here. So I'm going to add in the 2 tablespoons of softened or lightly melted butter. It's fine. And then 2 tablespoons of dry milk powder. 1, 2. And you never want to put your yeast right on top, or your salt right on top of your yeast, because that can cause it to become inactive. So I like to add my flour first and then put the salt on top of the flour. So I'm curious to see what the difference is going to be with this bread flour. I should have put an apron on. I'm going to have flour all over my shirt. What the difference is between the bread flour and the regular flour I've been using. So you want to do 4 cups of flour. And that's usually been pretty perfect. I haven't very rarely had to add any extra flour to this recipe. That was 2, 3, and 4. But it all kind of depends on the amount of moisture in the air and humidity and stuff. All right, so we'll need 1 teaspoon of salt. I'll put that on top of my flour so it doesn't deactivate my yeast. Right there. Okay, so I will get this going and it'll mix for a few minutes just to get incorporated, and then it will knead in here for 5 minutes. All right, it is done mixing. So now what we're gonna do is get it out of the bowl. And you can use your spatula. I have clean hands. And just take it all off the hook, like so. Sometimes the bowl gets stuck in these mixers, and if you just leverage against a cutting board or something, usually that's enough to get it off. Then you want it out of the bowl. And then I usually just take a little bit of this olive oil spray. Then you spray on the inside of the bowl like this. And then I like to fold the dough in on itself just a little bit to make a nice even ball. Then just place it in the greased bowl, just like so. And then cover it with some saran wrap. I saw this one lady using it's like a shower cap, which is kind of cool. Just puts it right over top of it. And then put it in a warm spot. I'm going to put it on top of my stove and let it rise. And the recipe says it should rise till it's about double, so it'll be about an hour, okay? And then we'll roll it into shape it and put it in the loaf pan. All right, it's been just about an hour and my dough has risen beautifully. There. So what you want to do is gently deflate it. You don't have to go pinching it or anything. Just gently press it down to get all the air bubbles out. else you'll have air bubbles in your loaf of bread, and that's not much fun when you want a piece of avocado toast, right? And then just fold it out of there. And now what you want to do is you want to press it into a rectangle. So notice that I didn't put any extra flour down on there. So you're just going to kind of press it into a rectangle. I have my pan here. So for size wise, if you see any air bubbles, you want to press those out. You want to make sure it's evenly thick all over your rectangle. I had some air bubbles right there, so I had to move that just a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and spray my pan with some more of this olive oil spray. I picked this up at Sam's. It comes in a 2-pack. Just to make sure it doesn't stick. All right, and then what we're going to do is roll it into a log. So you just want to kind of roll it as tight as you can into each other with your fingers kind of going underneath, just like this. There. And then you want to roll it over where you can see where the seam is. And just pinch those seams together there on the bottom. All right, and then on the end, it has like a swirl here. So you want to press that in and bring the bottom up over the top. And that'll seal in the end of your loaf and make that look nice. And then the same on this, see how it's swirled? You want to press that in and bring that bottom piece up over the top. Okay. And I kind of just try to make it a little even all over, kind of pinch all those seams together there. And then you put the seam side down into your loaf pan. Sometimes the ends will be a little bit thicker than the middle, and you can kind of just adjust that over. And then just press it down into the pan, just like that. Sometimes it takes a little maneuvering to get it right in your pan. And there we go. So now I'll use the same piece of saran wrap I had, so we're not wasting. I'm going to spray the top of my bread too, because sometimes it gets a little high. Okay, there. And then this will keep the moisture in. You can also put like a moist towel over top also, but I have this right here and it will rise about this far over the pan, about an inch or so. So it takes about 40 minutes, so 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the warmth of your kitchen. And then we can put it into an oven for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. And I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. A little trick I learned is I have on my oven this little warm zone area. And if I put it on low for just like a minute or so and then turn it off, and when it's cool inside, it gives a little extra warmth and helps your bread rise a little easier. So I usually turn that on for a little bit. It doesn't get real hot, like I can touch it and it doesn't burn me. But maybe if you had a regular burner, you could just turn it on until it just got a little red or a little warm, and then you could turn it off, and that'll give it some extra warmth to rise. All right, you guys, I had this rising on my stove, and it's got just like 1 minute left, I believe, on the timer, and that was 40 minutes. So from here, you can just take off whatever you have covering it. Very careful, you don't want to deflate it. And I just wanted to show you guys what it looked like before I put it in the oven. And my kids were making these Oreo gingerbread houses while I was getting the other part done. That was pretty fun. It was like in a little kit, came from their grandma. It was pretty good. This one is Michael's, my son, and this one was Everlynn's. All right, I'll show you what it looks like when it's done baking. All right, I just pulled it out of the oven, and it's slightly a little dark on top. I don't think it'll do anything. I might brush some butter on there on top. This bread loaf definitely rose, and is my bread normally comes up to about here. So this bread flour definitely expanded the loaf quite a bit taller than I'm used to. So I think that's why the top of it burnt right here. I might have to put it a rack lower than my other bread when I use this bread flour. But all in all, that looks beautiful. I hope you guys give this recipe a shot. It's delicious with regular flour, or you could upgrade to bread flour. All right, thanks for joining me. If you like this video, please subscribe.